Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Dr. Xavier Bruce, and he wears several hats. He is the founder and CEO of Uplift, and that's a coaching organization, energy coaching.
Correct.
I don't know if well, you can explain the energy part of it in a little bit. And he's also the executive director of the Retired Military Officers Association, their business institute.
Correct.
Well, welcome this morning.
Thank you.
Now, the veterans, that's something, or in the military, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I am a Navy wife, or I was a Navy wife for many years. I'm now a Navy mom, 2 sons in the military. So this issue is something that's very important to me. So I want to start off by having you tell your story as a veteran and why you feel there are certain needs that are not being met for veterans.
Yeah.
So let's start off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Lake Village, Arkansas, and I went to the Air Force Academy prep school because my grades weren't high enough to go straight into the academy, so I went to the prep school. And after graduating there with an undergrad in biology, I went into communications and information systems for about 5 or 6 years before they had a reduction in force. At that time, I retrained into healthcare administration, and as a healthcare administrator, I worked in medical logistics. I worked as a resource management officer, kind of like the chief financial officer. I did that at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And then I ended up in medical intelligence, where I retired out of Fort Detrick, Maryland back in 2019. When I retired, the stress and anxiety that was present, I felt like it was unnecessary. Like, why wasn't I prepared to step out and do great things as soon as I was able to? And because that did not happen, I'm realizing that there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of other veterans that are having similar issues. And I retired as a lieutenant colonel, and one would think that, oh, academy grad, retired lieutenant colonel, you're going to be great. You're going to be, squared away. And I wasn't, for various reasons. Not to blame anyone else or an establishment, but there are some things that could have been put in place by me, and as well as organizations, so that we can be more squared away when we get out.
Why do you think it's important? Because part of your mission is making sure that vets connect with people of like mind. Why do you think it's important for them to have that connection, that to continue that brother and sisterhood?
Camaraderie is so important. It is why we live. Connectedness is so important, because when you have a psychologically safe space to talk and to share stories and to have similar lived experiences, it helps you just overcome the stress and anxiety associated with life transitions. In fact, I have an acronym that I use to have at the top of my mind, and it is what I coach about in my workshops. The acronym is MESS UP. These are the 6 types of stress that mess up the way that we show up. It's mental, emotional, spiritual, social, universal, and physical. Now, what we're finding is that there are some financial issues and hardships that exacerbate those 6 types of stress, and those 6 types of stress exacerbates financial issues that we have, especially for our BIPOC veteran population, Black, Indigenous people of color, because many of us, we just don't know what we don't know. We don't have anyone in our families that are financially savvy. Some of us do, which is great, but I am willing to bet that many of us don't. And when we're on active duty, when we're serving, we don't have financial advisors. You have a financial office, but they cannot provide you with financial advice. So where do you learn how to be financially savvy? So that is one of the issues that leads to mental and emotional stress and spiritual as well.
What caused you to, or what gave you that to believe that you could go out on your own and do your own thing opposed to going to work for a company?
Back in 2011, I was in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and I was dealing with rocket attacks and a rocky marriage at the same damn time. And I was in that bunker, and I was, my prayer life wasn't as strong as it is now. So I was trying to figure out, who do I talk to? And I didn't, there was stigma. There's stigma around, mental wellness. So I did not feel comfortable going to military medical care. So I said, you know what, I got to uplift my damn self. Fast forward to 2018 is when I started the company, because I knew that other veterans were going through what I was going through. So I felt like there was a need and a want, a known need. So whenever there's a need and a want, you have something. And I felt like my niche, which is the BIPOC veteran population, I feel like there's no way that I can fail by doing well by doing good.
How did you reach out to them, to that population?
So, social enrichment programs. How do you pull people together? People like to talk, people like to share stories, people like to eat and break bread and just have that camaraderie, because guess what? That's what we had in the military. We had to be together in basic training, and my years at the academy, you form the best relationships when you're in that type of environment. So I knew that that recipe would work once I started Uplift. And that's why I started this new program called The Conduit, which provides a conduit for us to come together to rebuild the camaraderie that we lost when we got out of the military. But while we're together, hey, let's get you squared away with your VA claim or care coordination. We created a continuum of care, but it's based on building that camaraderie, bringing us together as a BIPOC population.
Tell us a little bit more about what veterans need as far as knowledge in filling out claims and things like that. What are some of the things that people don't know that you inform them of?
Right. So people don't know where to turn. So when they don't know who to go to, then they don't do anything. It's this case of, well, I don't know what I don't know, so I'll be fine. I'll make do. I'll figure it out. When in fact, what we're doing is we're providing those veteran service officers that will ask the right questions to elicit the right response. Sometimes when we go to the person who's not having our best interests in mind, they may not ask the right questions, or we may not feel comfortable talking to someone who doesn't maybe look like us or have a similar lived experience. Well, what we're doing is we're providing that space for comfort, for vulnerability, and for people to be transparent to tell their story. So what they don't know, or what we don't know as a BIPOC veteran population, is that we have to eventually tell our story and be transparent, be vulnerable, because there may be some benefits on the table that you leave because of your ego, or you're not wanting to be embarrassed by your story, when guess what? That is the time to tell your story and to be upfront, be transparent, be vulnerable, because you deserve the benefits that are out there for you.
And you give workshops throughout the area.
Yes. So every month we have a workshop. And I used to have it on Saturday mornings during COVID. It used to be every morning, every Saturday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. Some people were like, whoa, this is early, but then they got used to it because I didn't want to disrupt people's Saturday morning or their whole day. Now that things have opened back up, I wanted it to be more in-person, more face-to-face, so that's where the Conduit came into play. And at the Conduit, it's not just claims clinic, care coordination, but it's also a fireside chat like this. It's also resource tables, so that, and the resource tables actually form the acronym Uplifter, because I like to see that our uplifters are uplifting our veteran community. So that's Uplift Energy Coaching, that's the U, that's me. The P is Physical Fitness and Nutrition, which is my wife, who's a certified personal trainer, so she's the P. The L is legal assistance. So we have someone there to help out with legal issues. It's some disparities concerning BIPOC veterans and how we got bad conduct discharges versus some of our other comrades. Insurance protection, financial assistance, tax planning, entrepreneurship, and then the R is resilience building. So that's the acronym Uplifter. Those are the resource tables. So when you come to this event, it's an experience. It's not just transactional. You come in, and if you need to get squared away with your VA claim, great. If not, then go around and go to some of these resource tables. If not, then hey, guess what? We're showing a movie, and it's about Black patriots that have overcome adversity. So it's an experience. The next one is in Baltimore. The idea is to have it in different areas across the DMV. So not just, the first one was in PG County, the next one Baltimore, then the following one would either be in DC, Western Maryland, Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland. And
Just
the idea is to
getting
take
the
it on the
word
road.
out.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about veterans when it comes to mental health. Are you providing resources for mental health as well?
Great question.
Because there are a lot of people who are prideful and don't want to get, who really could use that help.
Yes. So I tell people, I'm a doctor, but I'm a doctor of business administration, not a medical doctor. And that is why I have the resource tables. That is why I have the professionals, the medical professionals there. If they're not there, then I refer out because I stay in my lane and I don't give advice on mental health or trying to diagnose anyone. So we provide those services, and we do it by either having someone there in person who's a medical professional, or remember I mentioned care coordination. I get them to a navigator who will do an intake and get them the services that they need if it comes down to like mental health issues that they need. So kind of a one-stop shop versus having to go here and go there and there. No, you come here and then you're going to get squared away when you leave here.
Because a lot of people get frustrated with that. If you've got to go here, here, and there, they'll go one or two places and then just say, you know what? Just forget it. I'll deal with this.
Yeah, exactly. It gets frustrating. And it's so frustrating to have to go different places. And not only when you go there and you're not welcomed, you have to go different places and experience that same sense of, hey, no one cares for me. No one is taking my story to heart. They're not taking me seriously. So not only are you going all these different places, but you're also not treated like you feel like you should be treated. So that is baked into the Conduit event as well. People that are trusted partners, vetted resources that have a heart that's trying to help versus trying to hinder.
What are some of the employment barriers that veterans run across?
I would say in the Air Force it's called AFSC, Air Force Specialty Code, but in the Army it's MOS. It's whatever you did in the military. So as you can imagine, if your specialty in the military is not readily transferable to the outside world, to the civilian workforce, then you're going to be frustrated trying to find a job if that job is not in the civilian workforce. But also, for example, I was in the intelligence community for a while, but I did not want to do that once I retired because it's a lonely type of profession. So I wanted to really get Uplift up and running and help veterans, but I couldn't do that in that type of profession. But my resume stated that I had all these types of jobs that were in that space. So even as a retired 05 and academic, all this, I had a hard time finding a job because I had to consider doing what I was doing for my last 6-7 years in the military, and I no longer wanted to do that. I wanted to do something different that aligned with Uplift, because what we're finding is that when you want to become an entrepreneur, you can run out of runway very fast. Not literal runway, but financial runway. You come out of pocket, you're taking from savings, you're taking from your TSP, your 401k, because you're trying to make it with your own business, your own practice, and you run out of runway. And in my case, you may end up going back to what you did when you were in the military, only to find out that, you know what, this is not where I should be at this age and this stage. So you bounce around. You can bounce around for the first 2 years after getting out. Not just retirement, but just separating from the military, because you're trying to find yourself. You're trying to figure out what do you want to do next. And it's about trying to figure out what you're passionate about, where you can be creative, and where you can make impact. So that's one of the issues that we have getting out of the military.
Now, there's a new initiative with the Retired Military Officers Association, a new business initiative. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so it's called RBI. It's the Retired Military Officers Association Business Institute. And it's built in order to help our veterans start their own small business. But it's also for those that have started their small business but didn't pick up on everything as they got started. Like, you may start your business, but you didn't really learn much about maybe bookkeeping or the financial issues that can come about, or hiring and firing, those types of things. You just got started and you're moving along, but you may be leaking over here financially because you're just not financially savvy. It goes back to being financially savvy. So what RBI does is it brings in facilitators, and we're helping not only veterans, but even outsiders start and grow their business and get feedback in a psychologically safe space. Because if you're not careful and you have your own business and you ask the wrong person different questions, they can take your idea, or they can give you some advice that's not sound. Well, with RBI, you're able to talk to the facilitator. You're able to talk. I'll be the executive director, and we're actually hiring facilitators at this time. In fact, a secretary and treasurer as well, to build this platform so that our military connected community can start and grow their business, but have a cohort that they can talk to, and it'd be a safe space for them to share their ideas.
What are the most frequently asked questions that you get from veterans trying to start their own business? Is it, how do you fund this, or what are the main concerns?
I think one of the main concerns is, where do I get funding? Where do I get funding to start this business? Because, yeah, you can go out for grants, but a lot of times grants is only like 1 year money. It runs out. And if you're going to have a brick and mortar company and you take out a loan, well, guess what? Now you're running your business and you have to pay not only the loan back, but also the lease on that space. So when it comes to funding, how to get it, there's state funding, there's county, there's state, there's federal funding, but how do you get to it? And there's these different certifications like SBE and MBE, and it's like alphabet soup. But it gets frustrating because you're like, how do I get to it? Or what type of applications do I need to fill out? And those can be frustrating. You fill them out, and then it gets kicked back. And then it goes back and forth. Then, as you mentioned earlier, you just kind of throw up your hands and say, you know what? I'll figure it out myself. I'll fund it myself. So the frequently asked question is, how do I fund it, and how do I successfully get certified in order to go after these larger contracts?
And also, as minorities, we know that we are less likely to get those loans from the bank.
Yes.
As other populations. How do you get people to overcome the objections?
Yes. I would say to the veterans that have those issues, they're running up against these barriers, is to not give up, is to, there's an acronym. If it's not an acronym, it did not exist in the military. So, you remember I said uplift yourself, right? Well, there's practical and then there's energetic decisions. Well, with the practical, I talked about legal and insurance, but the energetic, that's when you start looking at the acronym uplifter, but differently. You look at upward appeal, pressure, legitimizing actions, inspiration, friendliness, teamwork, exchange, and then rational persuasion. So that upward appeal is when you're talking to someone who knows more than you do about that particular topic or that particular platform. So to answer your question, I would use upward appeal, or I would coach the veteran on using upward appeal, which is to find a mentor or an advisor or enroll in RBI so that we can get you squared away.
And mentorship, that is so important. How do you emphasize that? That whatever business you're in, to have a mentor and there are not enough.
Right.
There are not enough mentors to go around. How important was that for you?
Well, while I was in the military, I never had a mentor. I didn't have a mentor. I think that is what kept me from going further, kept me from making 06 colonel or possibly even general. Didn't have a mentor, just based on, the different assignments that I had, the different commanders that I had. Unfortunately, I did not have a strong mentor. So I had to kind of self-help and figure it out myself. But now that I'm out and I'm really putting myself out there and being open to advice and mentorship and coaching, that is when you find the right mentor for that particular issue or pain point in your life. So I would advise veterans to open themselves up, to be, again, transparent and vulnerable and ask for help. I say that, hey, you need to inspire, empower, and uplift your damn self. But that doesn't mean stop asking for help. Stop taking your blood pressure medication. Stop going to therapy. That means, hey, put your mask on first before you attempt to help others. That means you can't pour out of an empty cup. You can't sell out of an empty wagon. But don't stop asking for assistance. Just try to assist yourself first.
Why are you? Well, of course, you're particularly sensitive to the needs of minority veterans. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Because of the disparities. If you look at our history, it's hard. Sometimes we don't want to think about our veterans and how they were treated when they came back from World War II and Vietnam, especially our black veterans. I mean, the stories, even the stories of us coming back as black veterans and wearing our uniform and actually being targeted because of the fact that we're wearing our uniform.
Because we're fighting for freedom overseas, but we're not free here.
Right.
Or you're getting a certain level of respect in other countries that you weren't getting here.
Right. And we were targeted even more when we came back from Vietnam, because guess what? Now we have this sense of this vigor, this self-esteem, this audacity that, hey, we're not putting up with this anymore. And we were targeted even more, especially in some areas of our country. So these, especially the Vietnam veterans, they're still around. And they're in their 70s and 80s. And 80s, and guess what? They're disabled. And they're getting 0% disability payments because when they tried to put in their claim when they got out, they were shunned, they were not taken care of, so they got frustrated and they said, you know what, forget it. Well, we're trying to help those veterans now. It's not too late. Okay, yeah, you're getting older, but some of your benefits can go to your family members. So our events are the conduit, it has a mix of 20 and 30 and
I'm
70
glad you
and 80
mentioned
year olds.
that, because I was thinking it was just for recent
No.
veterans. So you deal with veterans from all over.
Yes, all over, all generations, all eras, men, women, different ranks, different. We see it all. In fact, in that first event in PG County, there were young and old. There were people who were 100% disabled and was getting paid, but they wanted to start their own business. So they went to the E. They went to the entrepreneurship and employment table to get resources there. But we saw at least 12 with our claims clinic who actually went back and signed in and went behind closed doors to put their claim in for the first time.
Oh my goodness.
Because they felt like, okay, this is where I want to go. And probably they tried it before, but they were not welcome. But they see this event, they see, okay, there's going to be, and it's an experience. We got dominoes and spades and these types of games that will bring a certain population to these events. So just seeing them walk away with their medical records in hand or coming in with their backpack, I'm knowing that their records are in there and they're going to get squared away.
With 2 minutes left in the program, where do you go from here? What would you like the folks to know? Where do you go from here? My watch just went off, but go ahead.
I envision the conduit going nationwide. Starting here in the DMV, the conduit would be the place to go if you are a BIPOC military connected person. That's not only veterans, there's service members, there's family members, there's caretakers. To come to this event and for it to be funded. Right now, I'm coming out of pocket quite a bit, but I see the vision. I see at some point someone's going to say, you know what? Let me help you out with that. I see what you're trying to do. Let's help you out with that. So starting in the DMV, take it on the road so that all of our BIPOC military connected veterans and service members and family members, they now will come out and say, oh, I want to go there. I want to try this again, or I want to do this for the first time because I deserve it.
Very good. We're going to put your information at the end of the program so people will know how to contact your organization and how to become involved.
Fantastic.
We've been talking to Dr. Xavier Bruce, founder and CEO of Uplift Energy Coaching, and you're also the executive director of the Retired Military Officers Association Business Institute.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. We've talked several times, but we've never seen each other, so it's good to talk face to face. You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.